at the North Greenwich Arena. This is the gold medal game, a rematch of the battle in Beijing, the United States and Spain. The Chandler to begin the gold medal game. Durant, corner three. Kobe, that corner three.
That has not been a weakness.
Carmelo three, yes sir! Chris Paul with a three.
Now, beautiful basketball. Chris Paul's fired up.
Chris Paul inside! Mike Krzyzewski jumping for joy! Durant answers with a three. LeBron with a seam! LeBron deep three. Got it! And there will be no changing of the guard in London. Team USA has won back-to-back gold medals.
Well, you can tell everybody. Yeah, you can tell everybody. Go ahead and tell everybody. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Well, you can tell everybody. Yeah, you can tell everybody. Go ahead and tell everybody. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Yes, I am, yes, I am, yes, I am. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. I got all the answers to your questions. I'll be the teacher, you could be the lesson. I'll be the preacher, you be the confession. I'll be the quick relief to all your stressing.
Good morning. Thank you all for joining us here today. For those I haven't already met, my name is Craig Miller. I'm Chief Communications Officer at USA Basketball. Representing us this morning is an individual who's been responsible for getting USA Basketball men's national team back to the top of the medal podium. Joining us today is Jerry Colangelo. Mr. Colangelo has served as USA Basketball's chairman since 2009, and he's been the managing director of USA Basketball men's national team since 2005. When Jerry took over in 2005, the USA men's national team hadn't won a gold medal in a major competition since 2000 Olympics. But he quickly rebuilt a true national team program. And today, USA Basketball men's national team is ranked #1 in the world, as is our women's national team, of course. Since 2006, and these are remarkable numbers, really, if you consider them, USA Basketball national teams have compiled a 75-1 record under his leadership, and for the first time ever has won 4 consecutive gold medal at major international competitions, and that includes the 2010, 2014 FIBA World Cups and the 2008-2012 Olympics. And in fact, entering Rio, the USA men's national team is currently on a 63-game win streak. Good morning, Jerry. We'll start things off this morning with Jerry giving some general background on the status of the USA national team, and then we'll shortly thereafter open it to questions from media.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here with you. I'll go back a little bit just to set the stage a little bit more specifically. And I think back to the '04 Olympics and what I witnessed, and the fact that we finished 3rd in Athens, the fact that the whole scene left a lot to be desired, actually led to a big change, a sea change, if you will, for USA Basketball, because early in '05, I was called by David Stern, then the commissioner of the NBA, and if you recall, USA Basketball is really made up of great support from the NCAA, and the NBA in particular, and then other constituencies also. But David called to see if I would be interested in running USA Basketball. And at the time, I was kind of ready for another challenge. I had just sold the Phoenix Suns months earlier, and then also had stepped down from the Arizona Diamondbacks that I started in Phoenix. And so I said I would do it, but I wanted autonomy in order to make it happen, and that was, rather than committees, it would be more autonomous, where in selection of the coaches and the players, that I would be responsible for that, subject to approval of the board per our agreement. And then secondly, the other issue was budget. What I did was look around the world to see how some of the better programs were doing and how they did them. And it was obvious to me we needed a cultural shift and change. And some of what I'm saying to you, you've heard me say before, but it's absolutely right on, and that is we had to show respect to the world basketball community in order to earn back the respect that I felt we had lost. And so we set out to do just that. Best practices, came up with the national team concept, and then a very interesting thing happened. I brought back to a meeting in Chicago former Olympic coaches going all the way back to 1960, and many great players who represented us as athletes in the Olympics. And at this meeting, there were probably 40 of the great basketball minds in the history of the game. And it was there that we talked about the status of USA basketball. We talked about coaches, we talked about players. We did all the things that you would normally think you would. But it was a moment in time when these individuals shared their Olympic experience, also their read on what was happening presently and what they thought needed to happen. And so with that, armed with that information, I set out to select a coach. As you well know, Coach K was my selection. It's been a great relationship, a great partnership. There was another moment that took place at that meeting when Dean Smith, who is now deceased, the coach at North Carolina, and one of Coach K's biggest rivals, referred to the college coaches I had up on the board, and he said, there's only one guy up there who could get the job done, who has the respect of the players and has the capacity, and that's Coach K. I mean, I think we were all kind of moved by that. His great competitor, you know, having that to say about him as a coach, as a person, etc. And so once Mike and I met, it was a done deal, and we just set out to rebuild USA basketball. And then the concept was to meet with each player one-on-one, eyeball to eyeball, and just talk to them about, for example, why would I do this at this stage of my life? Why was it important to me? It was important to me because I was proud to be in America, and I was very unhappy about the status of USA basketball, and the competitor in me wanted to make a change and turn it again. And so it was challenging. And I needed commitments from players, and they needed to do A, B, C, and D, and they all did. I mean, that's really what took place, one by one, and players talk, and it just started to snowball. So I think back to '04, when we had players who dropped out at the last minute to represent their country, and were replaced by young players who weren't ready to represent their country. And you had to pull them across the finish line to a point where guys are now lined up who want to play. And we have an incredible roster of 31 players on our national team with incredible flexibility. And so this is the other side of the story. The question is, how do you get down to 12? Well, the one thing you don't do is have a camp. And you don't ask players to go home because they weren't one of the 12 selected players. We know our players extremely well. We monitor them daily. We're into analytics regarding even more precise information on our people. And so we will select the 12 players at the end of June when the NBA season and the playoffs are over. And that could be the 26th, 27th, 28th of June. We then proceed to training camp in Las Vegas, which starts around July 17th. We're there for a week. We'll play a game and then continue on to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Houston, play games against international competition, friendly games in preparation, and then we embark out of Houston for Rio. This is a big thing for a number of people involved and associated with USA Basketball. Greg talked about the record, but it's been an experience. We've developed a family of coaches and players, and our staff headed by Coach K, Tom Thibodeau and Monty Williams, NBA coaches, Jimmy Boeheim, another Hall of Famer from Syracuse University. It's a great staff. We have players like Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James who have a chance to not only play in 4 Olympics in their career, but win 3 gold medals. And so there's a lot riding on Coach K's departure after the Rio Games, and I already announced that Popovich, the great coach at San Antonio, will take over for Coach K after the Rio Games. And he pulled one on me when we met and discussed the possibility. He gave it some consideration and time, and he came back and said, "Jerry, I'll do it. I'll do the Olympics in 2020 and the quad after Rio, but you have to stay. I'm not doing this if you're gone." And so that kind of forced my hand. It didn't take much of a pull because I love the game. I have a great passion for what we're doing and what we've accomplished. And so the game plan is to turn over the coaching reins to Coach Popovich day after Rio. And Coach K is going to be my assistant in all that we do, so he stays involved. And then we'll get ready for the next time around, Tokyo in 2020. We've accomplished a lot. We're proud of that, but we don't really spend much time thinking about it. It was mentioned we're 75-1. I think about the loss. I do think about that loss all the time. I mean, it was a moment for us that, the old saying that on any given night, 5 guys who play really well together could beat 5 great players. Well, it's true. And in the tournament in Tokyo, which was the World Championships, we played Greece, and we went into a shooting slump for a period during the game. It's a shorter game. It's 40 minutes, not 48. In a 48-minute game, our players were accustomed to, streaks in the game, and you can come back from a deficit. Well, in a shorter game, it's more difficult to overcome that. And so turnovers and missed free throws on our end, and a lot of threes on their end led to us being beaten. If anything, it served as an incredible incentive for us that we still had a lot of work to do. And we haven't looked back. We don't take anything for granted. We respect our competition. We've had great games in the Olympics. In fact, the finals against Spain on 2 occasions have been really, really good games. So that's basically an overview of where we've been, where we are, and our preparations. We think we're in great shape as it relates to all the preparation that's being done. In fact, part of our team of people with USA Basketball are in Rio this week looking at final preparations. Practice facilities, proximity to the venues, restaurants, all of the things that are so important to players, staff, families who will be there with our players and coaches. Those are all very important things, and we try to be as good as we can in doing things the right way and doing things first class. I think all of our people understand one thing. We represent the United States of America when we're competing in world competition, and we don't take that lightly. We take it very seriously.
Thank you. Jerry, we talked about the wins and some of the preparation, but one of the things I don't think gets enough credit is the culture you've created, and I would wondering if you would speak a little bit about that and a little bit about our Hoops for Troops and the military involvement and how that's parlayed into the players understanding the responsibility of representing the United States.
Well, the fact that we have had so much involvement with our military people representing the United States is indicative of what we feel about representing our country, just as they do, as how they protect our country. We are in concert with them doing things to show respect to the job they're doing. As a result, we've had, through Martin Dempsey, who was the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, we've had all kinds of programs involving the NBA, the military, USA Basketball. We've had part of a training camp day at West Point. We've had appearances at different camps around the world where we have dressed up in fatigues. We've put on programs for our people who are protecting our nation. And so it's been a great relationship. And, I'll just tell a story about the fact that after '04 and the loss in Athens, we were on a mission. And the mission was to get back. We were climbing the hill as we went to Beijing. And so, in my mind, when the medals were being awarded and the Star-Spangled Banner was being played and the flag was flying, it was a moment of total fulfillment for me because I had the privilege of being given that opportunity to take on the responsibility, and I had a vision, I had a plan, and I saw it executed. And it just didn't get any better than that because with all the success I've had in a lot of different sports and awards and so forth, nothing gets close to the gold medal and winning gold medals for your team representing your country.
Also, maybe talk a little bit about, you mentioned that our pool is at 31 players, but talk about the growth that you've seen in development of the pool and the depth and the talent level that you're at, and maybe just a little bit more about, the composition that you foresee for the team in terms of what you're looking to achieve.
Well, it starts a lot earlier than the senior national teams. When you look at the success we have had with all the junior teams, I would call it we're fully loaded. I mean, all the young kids who are aspiring now to be on the Olympic team, that's what they aspire to do, they start with the junior teams and they work their way up. Last year when Duke won the NCAA championship, they had 3 freshmen in the starting lineup. And when they were interviewed post-game, one of the questions was about, weren't you intimidated? Here you are, you're just a freshman, you're playing, for the national championship. And they all said, no, we've been here before. We've played for gold medals. And they won gold medals. And so it's very interesting to see how it starts with, 16-year-olds and they work their way up and they've had these experiences. So it really truly is a fully loaded program today. It's important to keep that going. We're focusing in USA Basketball on the youth of America, and the teaching and the coaching and the system that exists, and the things we're trying to do is get coaches accredited, clean up what we can clean up as much as we can in the role we're in, and make a difference with the youth, because it's only a select few who are able to get into the real program here and get to the Olympics.
We'll take, we have some time for some questions. If you have questions, we'll start in the front here and rotate over.
Jerry Nancy Armour from USA Today. You mentioned that you want to get down to the 12-man roster by the end of June. Does it make it more difficult knowing that some of your biggest names have not committed, or have they just not committed publicly and they've told you that they're going to play?
Well, we haven't asked anyone to commit to wish to play. The last commitment took place last summer when we had a camp in Las Vegas, and we indicated for all those who wanted to be part of the process, they had to be at camp last summer, and all 34 showed. So that was a pretty good sign of everyone wanting to at least keep their options open. And, you know, the beauty of having a roster as deep as we do, you know, people basically are saying, how are you going to pick 12? How can you leave off certain people? Well, some of that takes care of itself. It always does. There are always circumstances that come up where someone is not capable of playing because of an injury, because of a family situation, a contract situation. There have been a few of those over the years. So we're not looking for commitments, and quite honestly, if there were a few who decided not to participate, it makes my job a little bit easier. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Dorothy Slifko, Fosnet. I know that the reins of the team are still in Coach K's hands, quite firmly. Is Greg Popovich expected to make a trip to Rio behind the scenes to familiarize himself?
Well, just to show you, you know, how Coach K looks at things like that, the question was, is Coach Popovich going to be around? Is he going to be in Rio, basically, is what you're asking, or training camp? It's all available to him. He knows that. He'll make that decision himself as to how much he wants to be around or be present. But, you know, we have no problem with that at all. In fact, we think it'd be good if he was exposed to exactly what we're doing. You know, it's one thing to tell him, here's what we do, here's how we do it. But I think you have to experience it to some degree. You know, the culture that Greg talked about, you know, once we arrive at training camp, I mean, it's like everything changes. The players are in a different mode. It's not like their relationships with their respective NBA teams. It's different. They're different, and it's all positive. You know, the daily meetings we have, the things we talk about, the goals, the mission we're on, all of that is part of this culture that is pretty strong. And so I think it would be good for Coach Popovich to be exposed to that sooner rather than later.
Rachel Axon from USA Today Sports over here. You mentioned earlier that analytics play a role in your selection of the team. So could you elaborate on that, what you're looking at, how that kind of helps you decide, you know, if it's not the 12 names that people would expect, how that plays a role?
Sure, Rachel. You know, analytics is such a big part of sports today because it's something that has really evolved, and I think baseball had the big impact with analytics. Billy Beane's Moneyball book, and you know, I think it's a little different in baseball, which is more of an individual sport than a team sport per se, and I think statistics have great value there in evaluation purposes. Although I just saw where the Boston Red Sox who had been really heavy into analytics have just turned the page and gone the other way. I think in basketball, it's a matter of using analytics as a great tool. And most often, when you have experienced basketball people who have been around the track, they understand how to evaluate talent. You take that experience and you take analytics. Most often, the analytics will justify what you thought in the first place. But there are things you can pull from analytics to make your situation better. I mean, when you look at shot charts and when you look at end of game situations, there's so much that we're throwing into this model that we are in that's in process. We're not even finished with our model, but we can retrieve all the information that's ever been done, if you will, and use that as a tool if we get right down to a nitty-gritty decision of some kind, like combinations of players. I think certain players play better with certain players, and sometimes it's oil and water and oil, and sometimes it's anything but that. So, this is kind of a new venture for us in terms of the analytical approach, but only as a tool. But I'm excited about that.
Good morning, Jerry. Right here in front.
Yes.
How are you? And welcome to Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Jerry, quick question on looking at the games themselves and preparations. FIBA has restructured. We understand there's a new realignment, and possibly a couple of more teams will have an opportunity to play. Has the USA Basketball been told when the draw will be made, and who might we be looking at in terms of that type of competition that we may face?
Well, there's still 3 teams that need to be selected, and there are some qualifying tournaments that take place early this summer. The draw actually is going to take place this Friday, and so we'll have that information this week. FIBA is going through potentially a lot of change. They would like to see a lot of change in the Olympic structure and also the World Cup, which was previously the World Championships. And so that's kind of an ongoing dialogue. And we'll see how that all changes. But we're not going to see any of that between now and Rio. That's all after Rio, heading toward 2020.
Hi, good morning. Here, Amanda Kestelman from TV Global Brazil. My question is, what can be said right now about the logistics of the team in Rio? Because down in Brazil, we heard the possibility of the team staying in a transatlantic in Rio. How would be this operation in the summer?
It's kind of interesting. Our players who haven't stayed at the Olympic Village since before 1992. And there's reasons for that. There's only a few sports who have to be there, not have to be there, but their play, basketball, is there for the entire run in Rio. And there's a lot of things that happen in the Olympic Village. People come, people go. Some are there for a short time. Some are there for a long period of time. So for a number of reasons, which is our families, our players who are giving of their time away from their families have an opportunity. We want to make sure we can take care of them. We also get really a lot of attention when we are out there in the world. And one way to protect our players and the major investment in those players is to make sure that we have the kinds of security above and beyond. The Olympic people do a great job, but we think we're better served by not being in the village, although our players are there all the time. involved with other athletes. And that's been a neat thing for us to see. So we will not be in the village, but this is nothing new. As I say, it's been that way since '92.
Hey, Jerry, Matt Futterman from the Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
Do you expect any further pushback from NBA owners about players and putting themselves at risk when they've got these multi-million-dollar contracts with their teams? The teams have invested all this money in them, or are the owners are they okay moving forward with NBA players being involved? Would you ever think of going to a model where more college players are involved in this on the Olympic team?
Well, part of that answer relates to a question earlier regarding FIBA and some of their thoughts about the future. And part of the discussion is more focus on the World Cup. And not that the Olympics would be de-emphasized, but that the age of the players participating would be affected. So, that remains to be seen. As far as the owners are concerned, the owners have a vested interest in promoting the game worldwide. We are in a worldwide economy. Basketball is the #2 sport in the world behind soccer, as we call it. And so the growth of the NBA game worldwide has been incredible. Look at the number of players, international players who are now in the NBA. Almost a third. And that's a long way since 1992. So there's a reason for our players to be involved in a big way, because we're promoting the game, and there's a great response to, our players are probably as well known as any athletes. Why is that? It's because of the television coverage and the close-ups of all of our players. They're recognized almost anywhere in the world. So there's a vested interest in ownership supporting this. Anything's possible. Anything could change. I don't see anything in the foreseeable future that will cause change. There are always a few who are more outspoken about their opinions, and they're entitled to that. But I don't think it's an issue today.
Question back here.
Yeah, hi, Jerry. Over here, kind of to your right a little bit.
Sorry,
Yeah.
there you are.
Yeah, Beth Harris, AP. Couple questions for you. Since you're essentially picking players off their NBA seasons, has Blake Griffin's lengthy absence hurt his chances in any way?
Well, I would rather not be specific about specific players, but let's put it this way. When we went to this concept and idea of having the national team concept, we're not going to have a camp, what do we have to judge from and by? It's the past work record, but also what's happening presently. What's happened during the course of this season? What kind of shape are those players, each one of them, what have they gone through? What issues have they had? So everything that's happened in the season this year will have some bearing on who we select, for certain. I'm specifically talking about injuries and how players are going to be, what kind of shape they're going to be in particular. Look, we want people to, I don't think we have any issues with any of our players regarding personal conduct. People can have opinions of what one player did or didn't do or how he responded to something, and many of them are still pretty young guys, subject to making mistakes. We all have made mistakes, and so I don't judge people based on that. If they're people of good character and they can play, they've got a shot to represent us.
Is regarding Monty Williams. Have you had any discussions with him and whether he still plans to go as an assistant?
Such a tragedy. The question was about Monty Williams. who lost his wife in a head-on collision in Oklahoma City a few weeks ago. Monty is one of our assistant coaches and a terrific coach and a terrific young man. I was at the funeral in Oklahoma City, and I mean, the people who were there to show support for Monty and his family was an amazing thing. We were all broken up, and to have heard, if you had listened, you can pick it up on YouTube, I know this for sure. The strength that Monty showed in his comments about what had transpired and his loss of his wife and the 4 kids that he has to take care of today was just an amazing moment. I've chosen not to even talk to him about what his plans are. I don't need to know anything right now. I know what I would do if he decides not to go forward, and I'm not sure what he's going to do. I think that's going to be a family decision, whether he'll want to do the Olympics this summer. You know, he went right back to work, which is probably the best thing he could have done after the funeral, because you know, you can't sit around and just let your mind work on you. So I don't know what the answer is yet, but we'll be fine either way, whatever he wants to do.
Left side.
Yes.
Kevin Nutley with Around the Rings. FIBA is really beginning to develop and even push for a conclusion of the 3-on-3 program in possibly the 2020 Olympics or the 2024 Games.
Yes.
Is USA Basketball considering beginning to develop a 3-on-3 program?
Well, we're pretty heavy into 3-on-3 basketball on a national basis, and you know, we're for it. You know, the more exposure for the game of basketball, and 3-on-3 is a good game. It's a different game, without question, and we would love to see that as part of the Olympic effort going forward. We thought there was a chance that it could happen even for 16, but it didn't. It didn't quite get over that hump. But yes, we're very supportive. We have clinics, we have tournaments. We're very supportive of 3-on-3 basketball.
I'll just add that, you know, USA Basketball fields a men's and women's U18 3-on-3 team that competes in the World Championships and the Open Division. And our women's program has been very successful with that. And additionally, there's been a lot of emphasis on conducting, as Jerry said, regional camps for 3-on-3, and we also host some national tournaments as well. We need to wrap this up to keep the schedule going. However, Jerry will be available next door, so if you could carry the questions over to that area, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you all for attending today, and if you have any questions, need any information, there's a packet of information out there, and my email and phone numbers included there. Thanks very much.